Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. This is another Dating Chronicles video, and I'm laughing because I don't know why these memories are coming up. And I think because I haven't been dating lately because of COVID. And also, like, these stories, even at the time, it was like, huh? But now it's just funny in a way. It's sad, but funny. And so I want to share this with you as I do my other stories to just help you understand some of the things that goes on out here in these streets. And if you're dating and you've had similar experiences as the ones I share, this is just to let you know you are not alone. The first story I'm going to tell you about, I went to an event off of meetup.com, and I forget what event it was. This was years ago, and I had forgot about this until like yesterday. And so I'm just like, where did this memory come from? And so I met this guy at this event, and it was like a singles event for something. And and he was younger than me. I was in my 40s at the time, and he was like in his mid 30s. And I was just like, and even just watching him while we were there, and it was only a few people of color there, so that's why like he caught my attention. And I do date outside of my race, I do, but it caught my attention because I'm like, oh, there's a person of color, there's a person of color, there's a person of color. I was like, wow, there's like 4 of us, including me, out of like 20 people. Anyway, so even watching how his mannerisms and his body language, I'm thinking he's really young. And he did come over to talk to me, and I'm like, okay, yeah, he is really young. And I didn't ask him how old he was. I thought he was in like his late 20s. I really did. And he asked if we can exchange numbers. And I'm just like, okay. Because I'm thinking I am here to meet people. So what's the worst that can happen, right? And so anyway, we text back and forth, and then we spoke on the phone a few times. And I went up to meet him for lunch because I was going to be in his area for something. So I'm like, hey, I think I probably texted him. I didn't call. I'm a texter. Like, I'm going to be in your area such and such a day. Like, do you want to go out for something to eat while I'm up there before I come back down to Delaware? This was in Pennsylvania? Yeah, this was in Pennsylvania. And I'm only like 40 minutes from Philadelphia. But it was somewhere in Pennsylvania, not in Philadelphia though. And so we're sitting there eating, and so he's talking, and I'm just like, you know, so have you been, like, tell me about yourself, like, you know, your career, your college education, blah, blah, blah. So I'm trying to get a feel for like where this dude is and how old he is. So he's like, well, I haven't been to college yet, and this is my job, and this is what I do. So I'm like, well, how old are you? And he said something like 32. And I'm just like, oh my God, he's a baby. And he's like, well, how old are you? And so I told him, I don't have a problem telling people my age. I know today women don't tell. I think I look good for my age. So I'm just like, I brag about it. Like, I'm like, and I forget I was 40 something. So I'm like, oh, I'm 40 whatever years old I was. And you know, I asked him about his previous relationships, and, you know, he didn't really have any. He had a few relationships that were like less than 6 months each, and I'm just thinking, oh my God, like, he's a baby. Because at that point, I was divorced twice, and so I'm just like, I need somebody that has some experience here. Because relationships are hard work, and it takes a commitment from both people to make it work. Commitment and dedication to the actual relationship to make it work. And it can be challenging when someone does not have relationship experience more than like 6 months. And I'm not saying it can't happen. You can have successful relationships if one is more experienced than the other. So I am saying that you can. But for me at that time, and the way he was speaking and the things that he was saying, I was just like, man, this isn't going to work. So he asked me, so what about you? And I said, well, I was divorced twice. And he was like, oh, well, why? And I said, well, they were cheaters and they lied about cheating. And I wasn't going to live my life that way. And so they didn't want to work on the marriage. And so I decided to leave. And so he cut me off and says, well, you know what? Now at this time in your life, it's your time to let somebody take care of you. So all of that is in your past and that's in your history. And it's your time for somebody to be good to you and to take care of you. And I'm just looking at him like, did this dude just cut me off? He asked me a question, I'm answering him, and he just cut me off. Even though he was saying good things, I was still just like, he just cut me off. So anyway, so we finished our dinner. And afterwards, you know, a few days later, he called me. He wanted to come down and see me. I don't let people come to my apartment when I first meet them. And so I'm like, well, you can park outside and then I'll come out. And the day he wanted to come, I had a lot of errands to run. And so I said, well, you can just run around town with me to do errands. And then we also had decided to go bowling that day too. And so I went around and running my errands. You know, I went to the flea market, went here and there. And something irritated me when I was in the farmer's market. Now, mind you, I had told him I have errands to run, but you're welcome to just ride along with me around town. And he said, okay. So while I'm in the farmer's market, I was in there, one of the produce stores. And so I'm buying produce and this and that. And my cart was heavy. It's a hand cart. It was heavy. And so I'm standing like struggling with this thing. And so we're finally in line. And he leaves to go check in the video store. And I'm just like, this little dude didn't even like offer to like carry my hand cart. So that was the first thing. So I'm just like, and then I'm thinking, did he think I was going to ask him to pay for my groceries? Like, he walked with me all through the store while I was picking up stuff. And then we get in line and then he leaves the store. So I'm like, he probably thought I was going to ask him to pay for my groceries, which I was not at all. Because I'm like, I have errands to run. You can come with me if you want to ride along. That's fine. And so I'm like, so I had 3 bags of groceries, most of it fruit, fresh produce. And I'm struggling carrying these 3 bags to my vehicle. And he's just walking beside me. And I'm just like, I said, can you help me carry at least like one of these bags? Because this stuff is heavy. And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. So then I'm like, this really ain't going to work because he's not even, like, he was oblivious to me struggling carrying these heavy ass bags. So I'm just kind of like, can you tune in here to the current situation, dude? So we get to the car. I hadn't eaten all day. We get to the bowling alley. And he was like, well, how many, games you want to bowl? And I said, well, I am good for maybe 2 because of my disability. And this is my bad shoulder. I'm right-handed, so I have an impingement in my wrist as well. I said, I'm definitely good for 1, maybe 2. And so he tells the lady, 2 games. She says how much it is. And I pull out my card. And then he says, oh, you're paying for it? And I said, well, did you want to pay for it? And he says, well, I can if you want me to. I said, I'm asking you because you just asked me that. So then he was like, okay, well, I'll pay for it. And so then I was kind of confused. And so he was like, okay, well, I'll pay for it. And I'm just like, you don't have to. My card is out. He's like, no, I'll pay for it. So I'm just like, all right. So he told the lady, okay, well, we'll just bowl 1 game. And I'm like, okay, when I was going to pay, it was 2. And then that he practically insisted on paying is 1 game. It was $13. And so I was just like, what's happening? Like, I didn't understand what was happening. Excuse the interruption. I had to take off the videos here and put them onto my desktop because my memory was full. So we bowl 1 game. And I'm just like, what is happening? This guy, like, what? And in my mind, I'm like, something just ain't right. And so we finished bowling, and as we're leaving, I said to him, I said, and by this point, we were together maybe like 4 hours, and I still hadn't eaten. So I told him, I said, I need to eat something. I haven't eaten all day. Do you want to come eat with me, or do you want me to drop you back off at your car? And he was like, where were you thinking of going to eat? I said, Salad Works. And he was like, oh. And so I'm thinking, that didn't answer my question. And he said, well, if I wasn't going to come with you, where would you go? I said, Salad Works. And he said, and if I come with you, where are you going to go? I said, Salad Works. I said, I love Salad Works. I eat there like at least 3 times a week. And he was just sitting there. And I'm just like, I said, I don't have a problem just dropping you off at your car. Like, you don't have to come eat with me. Like, I'm just asking so I know which direction I'm driving in. And so he's just sitting there like this, like looking out the passenger window. And I'm just like, can we talk? Like in my mind, I'm just like waiting for him to say something. So I finally, and I didn't like that either. Like, I don't want to have to feel like I'm pulling information out of you. Like, yes, this is our third time meeting. This is our second date. But still, like, talk. Like, share your feelings. Use your words. You know what I mean? And so I said to him, I said, you seem like something's wrong. Like, what's going on? Like, what are you thinking? And he says, well, I'm just kind of weirded out. I said, weirded out by what? Like, did I miss something? Like, weirded out why? And he said, well, for paying for bowling. I said, so you're weirded out for paying $13 for one game of bowling? And he didn't say anything. I'm like, so why did that weird you out? And now I feel like I'm in clinical mode because I feel like I'm pulling information from him that I felt like as an adult, even though he was younger, he should still just say whatever he feels. Especially if I'm asking, like, what's the matter? And so he says, well, because the way I do things is, you know, if a woman comes to see me, well, actually he said a girl. And so that kind of was like, I'm a woman in my mind. He says, well, when a girl comes to see me, I pay. And when I go to see them, they pay. Once we're in an established relationship, then I pay for all the dates. And so I thought back to when we had dinner. When I gave my order, I told the wait person separate checks. And he was like, no, I'll pay for it. I said, no, we can do separate checks. I don't mind. He insisted on paying for it. So I said, well, can I at least leave the tip? When the check came, I asked him again, I can pay half. He's like, no, 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 no. And then I said, well, I can at least pay for mine. He was like, no. And so I said, well, can I at least leave a tip? And he was like, well, if you really want to. And I'm like, yeah, I do want to contribute something. And then I also thought about when he said, it's your time to let somebody take care of you and to be taken care of and then let somebody do for you. So all of this is running through my mind. And I'm like, he's weirded out over paying $13 for bowling. And then I thought too, okay, when somebody comes to your area, you pay. And when you go to their area, they pay. And then once it's an established relationship, he pays for all the dates. Like, who are you dating? How is that going to attract a woman, especially an older woman? You're telling her it's your time to be taken care of and let somebody take care of you. And then because you go see her, you're weirded out over paying $13 for bowling. I was just like, And if that's your policy, that you pay when they see you and they pay when you come see them, tell them that up front. Don't tell them it's their time to be taken care of and then let somebody take care of them and then you're just weirded out. Especially when also I was going to pay for bowling. I had my card out and he was like, oh, you're paying for it? And I said, yeah. So I'm like, I didn't understand that whole situation. So I dropped him off at his car. I went to Salad Works, got my salad, and then I came home, brought in my produce, brought in my salad, and had lunch. And I cannot remember if I heard from him. I know I did not contact him. I don't remember if he contacted me or not. This was years and years ago, probably like at least 6 years ago. But it was just one of them situations, and this is for ladies and for men. When you tell people stuff, be honest about it. Don't tell somebody it's your time to be taken care of, and then because you go see them, you're weirded out over paying for something. If somebody offers to pay, just let them pay. I had my card out, and he's like, oh, you're paying? And I'm like, yeah. So that was in line with his, when he goes see them, they pay. So I really was confused. I really was. So the bottom line to this is just be aware of what you say. Pay attention to how people act. And if they're not willing to communicate, I know a lot of these relationship videos goes back to communication. If you're having to like pull information from them, or if you end up feeling that way because they're not being open with you when you ask them a question, that could be a red flag. But also, just be honest with people. Be real with people. Don't tell them one thing, and then when you get around them, you have a different story. You know, and it's not even a financial thing. I don't have a problem splitting a check. I really don't. Because whether I'm with somebody or if I'm with myself, I'm going to eat. And so it doesn't matter to me a gentleman always pays, or, women want free lunch or whatever. I'm just like, that's just some BS, in my opinion. Because people get real weird about money. And that's why I'm like, separate checks, please. Or when I place my order, I'm saying, on my check, this is what I'm ordering. Just to make it clear that it's not me assuming they're going to pay or them wondering what they're going to pay. And if they insist on paying, I insist on paying for the second date. Or I'll just get a gift card and be like, hey, I got a gift card to the Cheesecake Factory. Let's go there to eat. You know what I mean? So that way it's not like, oh my gosh, I don't have money. Where are we going to go? I'm just like, hey, I got a gift card to so-and-so. Let's go there. And so there's a way to work around in someone's mind that you're paying for something. Because then they're like, oh, she has a gift card. They might think somebody gave it to me. And I'm thinking, I bought it. You know what I mean? And so pay attention to what you say to people. Listen to what people say. And then see if their words match their actions. And if not, that's something to think about. So think about that when you're considering whether or not to continue dealing with a person. And for you, make sure your words match your actions as well. Share your stories below. My email address is also below if you want to write to me privately. My Twitter is below. Sometimes I do get comments and questions on Twitter about my videos. And so feel free to do that as well. And I look forward to hearing from you. And thank you for being here. And you'll see me in the next video.